Good morning, everyone. It is Tuesday, March 23rd. This is Nadex Morning Analysis. My name is Todd Rich. I'm with Nadex. With me, Brian Caprice from Keep Trading Simple. Before Brian and I talk about a couple of hot spots in the markets where you might want to be looking today, I do need to share our disclaimer that trading involves risk and may not be appropriate for everyone, that any trading decisions you make are solely your responsibility and at your own risk, and that this is an educational session. Please do not construe anything Brian or I say as a buy or sell recommendation. We are doing this for your educational purposes only. So for today's, well, we got you here for about 10-ish, 15 minutes to get ready for the trading day. I think the hot spots that we want to look at today, one is going to be oil. Oil is down. Oil has been a high flyer, and it's getting clipped a little bit. So we're definitely going to take a look at oil. We've got the Dow and the S&P each looking like they're going to open a little lower, 0.3%. While the Nasdaq is holding steady, the Dow and the S&P are off a little bit. And I think people are going to be paying attention to the entire lineup of Fed speakers. And then particularly when Powell is speaking, because he's going to be getting asked some questions. He doesn't know what those questions are. So, Brian, why don't you kick us off? Just kind of give us a setup for the day, and then we'll kick it off with a look at oil.
Yeah. So there's been some, I guess, interesting news over the last 24 hours. Obviously, with Powell speaking, actually he's testifying today. You can see that the time has actually changed on it a little bit. Talking about how it was released 20 hours earlier than scheduled. But he's due to testify with Janet Yellen. And again, anytime there's testimony, there's questions that he may or may not know that are coming. You kind of have an idea where they're coming from and who they're coming from. But it's always something that you need to digest a little bit coming through. Kind of, again, it's the surprise that people are looking for. And again, there can be some crazy movement. So it was supposed to be at 10 o'clock. Now it's been pushed back to 12. So we should see that information kind of being released. In the overnight, we've actually seen a couple different forces at play. We've seen dollar strength for the most part. You see dollar Swiss is up. There was a great trade off this one yesterday. Dollar CAD, Aussie dollar down. The European markets are also down. And again, you can see that the euro pound is up, but with Bailey speaking, we know that the pound's had some weakness. One thing I do want to point out, we've seen a couple different headlines now as well, that the Bank of Spain cuts outlook as EU stimulus is slower than expected. And that's coming right on top of news that we got last night from Merkel talking about we're in a very serious situation right now. The case numbers are rising exponentially thanks to the British variant. And again, this has always been one of the concerns in the very beginning is, how will the vaccines work against the different variants? It's the same reason why we get a flu shot every single year, and why vaccine is kind of the wrong term for it, but it's the best one that we have. So this is kind of the fear that we see. And again, the European markets are obviously showing it. Obviously, the first thing that people think about, or one of the first factors that comes in whenever we start talking about is oil. Yep. Reason why is because if we're closing things down again, people are not driving. We're not using the oil, and we've had amazing amounts of surplus in the United States. And again, that's globally. We're having issues with it again. And yesterday morning, we talked about a little level here that we had the potential of taking something off of at the 60-50 level. Unfortunately, it just ended up getting too many hits. It stabilized, didn't really give us great movement. We had kind of that rollover. We were sitting right here yesterday, right where the spike was, and all it did was come up, grab this small level of basing at 1030. And again, 1030 reversal, came right back down, tagged the level again, and then number 4 is where it kind of chopped and finally broke through. So thus far today, since the European Open, right where this last purple X is, we've had a 3% drop really to the downside. It's been straight down, all the way down. In fact, it got as low as 58.45. So quite a large spike down on a lot of that news. We'll have to see what the recovery talk looks like today. Unfortunately, it's not really turning into any of the clean levels. The cleanest level we have is at 57.88. This is one of those ones that's kind of like it's in the middle of nowhere. It got very, very wicky after a big movement. Typically, when we see this movement, we are looking for some type of a parabolic retracement back north. And I would say right now, with where we're seeing this one, we've heard nothing but really positives from Powell thus far about what recovery looks like, and again, not really kind of intervening too much, and recovery is going well, and 100 million vaccinations are out there, and more is being produced. So I would say at this point, we've had such a such a push down very, very fast in a European session because of bad news. I think at this point it's kind of preparing itself, and again, it has the potential to go higher. And this is where I think a couple different Nadex products really match up on this one, just because again, it gives us a little bit more of a buffer than saying, "Here's where I'm entering, and here's my stop
Yeah.
loss 10 cents." Right?
So that's actually what I thought. If you're looking at oil today, and here's that level that Brian's talking about, just below 58.
Yeah.
Um, if it does come down a bit, I think call spreads might be an interesting way to play oil today. Remember, with call spreads, if it goes through your floor or ceiling, unlike a knockout, you're not knocked out. You're going to pay a little bit of a premium. So I think that it does turn out to be a little interesting. If you were curious what I'm looking at, these are, because we've got different daily call spreads, and you can take a look at the different levels and the different ranges. But I just took the 8 to 2:30 p.m. one, um, and it is kind of nice too. The way we display these on the chart is, it's blue if you're buying, it's red if you're selling. I mean, if you thought oil were going to really break down, we've seen oil make some pretty heavy, have some pretty heavy sell-offs, like last week, at the end of last week, and it is a bit of combination of there's supply out there, and now the question is the demand going to show up? And if we've got the supply and demand is going to not show up, I think a lot of people were anticipating summer months, nice weather, vaccines coming, and oil might have gotten a little ahead of itself. So one way to play this, definitely take a look at the different call spreads, and you can limit your risk if you're wrong, and give yourself an opportunity to play oil either up or down. Really not sure how this is going to manifest itself, but if it's going to come back down here and bounce, and you're looking for some type of parabolic retracement, or at least catching some support in a bounce, a call spread might be one way to potentially do that.
Could you switch back as well too? Because there's one thing I want to add about tomorrow.
Yep.
This is a larger time frame. I don't typically in these sessions, because it's more about kind of the trades of the day. This is a 4-hour chart, and that 57.88 level that we talked about is really where we had basing in the last really nice pop. The reason I'm bringing that up is because if we can maintain this downward pressure today, tonight at 6 p.m. when the Nadex contracts reprint for tomorrow, may be an ideal opportunity to go in there and start looking kind of where we're at. Here's the reason why. Tomorrow morning for news before we meet, we have flash services, flash manufacturing for all of Europe, as well as the pound, as well as the United States, PAL testifying at 10:30, and then crude oil inventories at 10:30. So it's getting to a position where we've had such huge movement today. We'll kind of have an idea what the API number looks like tonight for oil, but all the bad news we've heard today has driven it down. All these are expected to be higher than they were last time. If they all come in higher, manufacturing and services, that is a completely different demand story than what we're seeing today. Which again, if you want to buy something, do you want to buy it when it's on sale, or do you want to buy it when it's more expensive? And again, that's why I use the curve to kind of give me a bullish or bearish bias. So that's just one thing.
And by the way, that's great, because not only is this something to be looking at today, this is something to be looking at tomorrow. And I think, Brian, we were actually mentioning this yesterday, is if all you're trading are equity indices or Forex, for the next few months, with everything being about the economy and interest rates and inflation, we are going to be closely tracking two products, because they're the ones where inflation or the economic recovery really are going to play out in the price, and that's gold and oil. We will see this in gold and oil. Inflation, drives the price of gold up. If we're going to stall on the recovery, and there's going to be a supply or a demand change, watch the price of oil. So not only is this for today, but this is going to, and definitely for tomorrow, but these are going to be some hot products for the next couple of months.
Also, let's jump across to the indices too. I think that's important.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, you know what? By the way, let's take. I know we're running out of time. We're getting close. The indices, the Dow and the S, are definitely opening a little lower. I am mentioning right now, I just dropped a chat into the into the chat box. Brian's going to be doing a full-blown session. Today is Tuesday. He does an analysis of all of the markets, commodities, indices, foreign exchange, across the board. If you haven't registered, you can click that link. You can register, catch him. He'll be doing that in 3 hours. So midday today. So every Tuesday is an opportunity to catch Brian doing a full-blown analysis across the markets. So yeah, with that, you want to do? Let's go go ahead and take a peek.
Yeah, it's the Dow's supposed to be slightly lower. It's kind of an interesting situation. It hasn't really. I mean, again, this was a reversal at about 6 o'clock in the morning, so it's not necessarily grabbing the highest levels as well as the volume is very low during that time. Typically for the open, excuse me, I like to look at this on a 15-minute. There's a small level here that's not horrible if we're a little bit closer. Again, we're about 30 something minutes out. This would be a level right here that I'd be, maybe willing to take a short off of. With Powell's information being pushed back slightly, I would say that keep an eye on this, but I will say that there is some consolidation. We have kind of up here, we have, highs coming down here. So it's looking for some type of a breakout. It may be a little bit of a fake out if we decide to push a little bit lower today. So, I think that's okay. Like I said, I would check this one in about 20 minutes and see kind of what we do. If you just stabilize right here, I would say it's going to be a little bit of a battle back and forth, at least until Powell speaks as far as the Dow goes. And again, this is weird. We've seen the Dow do, great movement up, and then all of a sudden, what is it doing? It's dropping. And that level we talked about yesterday, it pushed it to the brink, and then again, it gave us the entry here back to the downside. So Dow's an interesting story. There's a level here, and I would say there's probably one more level sitting kind of probably somewhere up in this range, up in the 32,600 to 3258 range. Again, decent base push, and it was actually tested. You guys can see the test of it right there.
Yep.
Right there. So you'd watch that one, and then as far as the ES goes, kind of similar.
Real quickly, hold on. I just wanted to kind of show because I know we're going to try to wrap up, and I did want to share this, at least for the Dow. As Brian's given you these levels, how could you play this over at Nadex? We showed you the call spreads for oil. I think that's probably might be the cleanest way to look at oil today, just because it might be a real directional play. With the Dow, I mean, we have got a ton of binary options. I mean, the strike prices, if the Dow starts making a move, there are plenty of ways for you to either go short on some of these. If it's going to hit some of those levels and start turning south, you can pick a variety, and it might move multiple strike prices throughout the day. So definitely binary options, something to look at when you're looking at the Dow today.
All right. Yes, all right. Real quick.
Oh yeah, I got to flip you over. I'm sorry. I'm like, hey, let's do the S. I gotta move your chart over for you.
Yeah. So here's the S&P where we talked yesterday. We were mentioning it down here. We mentioned a level of 39.23 and thought that, hey, listen, this looked like a pretty good level. It's been tested before. It's not super clean. Let's look for a break of it. And we did. You can see when it came up from here with Powell's speech, it started the base right before the level, which again typically is a telltale sign when we break. It did break, it pulled back, and as you guys can see, it's that kind of Harry Potter lightning bolt higher. It wasn't able to go all the way up, back up to the 39.50. It did kind of stall out at 39.44, which is fine. That was getting a little bit later in the day, 3 p.m., and then again, we had the kind of the end of day crash. Since that time, again, we left that level on, and you can see that it came down, it based, and again, basing right before the level, telltale sign it's going to break. It came through, and again, pushed down, base, pulled back, Harry Potter trade, again to the bottom, exactly where it should have turned from yesterday. So right now, I would say we'd have to refine this just a little bit. I would probably kind of move this around and kind of say this level right here above is the tested level, right? We can see that we have a little bit of a test in there. We are a little bit shy, but this one is also doing the same type of consolidation where we have price coming in this direction as well as price coming in this direction. So I do think we are due for a break. I would be a little bit cautious of probably this level here at, 39.06. That's where Powell really kind of launched this yesterday. But right now we're kind of boxed in. But the way to play the ES is also drop it down to the 15-minute chart, look for, kind of a level of basing. And it has been a bit choppy, but there's been a few different trade entries this morning already for ES. But let me mark this off just so you guys can see it. I would say watch for small levels at 39.23. Watch for this level down here at 39.06 because that was the last time we had big sellers. And of course, watch this level here because this was the turning point, which comes in right here at 39.41. Those are 3 different levels that I have marked off for ES today.
Terrific. Listen, Brian is going to be again doing a full-blown session today. So if you want to catch him, he'll probably touch on the Dow, the ES, and oil a bit later this morning. But he'll also be covering gold. He'll cover the the foreign exchange pairs. So a lot more to come. Please join Brian later. With that, you got any questions for Nadex? Email us, customerservice@nadex.com. Brian is also very accessible. You can email him at support@keeptradingsimple.com. It is going to be an interesting day as people digest what the lineup of Fed speakers have to say, particularly when Powell starts getting to ask some questions. So you never really know what's going to happen. Brian did give you a heads up too on oil, not just for today, but keep an eye on it. We've got an economic report tomorrow morning, so oil is going to be in play. And you've got 29 minutes before the cash equities open and all the U.S. retail customers come into the markets. With that, hopefully you join Brian in a few hours, and want to wish everyone good luck in the markets.